Thank you for tuning in to ChristianLivingRadio.com. I'm your host, Kenyatta Goins, a.k.a. Pastor G. I am accompanied today by Brian and Joanne Pelcher and Jeremy Jackson. Unashamed by Grace is our new show that we're broadcasting. It's part of, or it is, Brian and Joanne's ministry. Today we're going to take a little different approach on things and have an open discussion, like a little panel here. Let's have some fun. I'm going to turn it over to Joanne. How are you doing, Joanne?
Oh, I'm doing great. Thank you so much for having us here. We're really, truly thankful for Christian Living Radio giving us this platform to talk about a subject that really nobody's talking about, right? You don't really hear about what's going on with pornography and sexual addiction, but we bring a positive note to it, and we actually promote it as sexual integrity, and we want to put that positive note with it, so because there's so much more that goes into it, and instead of just the negative. Yes. And but we're here today because there's something that everyone has been seeing in the news, I'm sure, the last couple days about the former disgraced New York congressman and New York City candidate Anthony Weiner.
Yes.
Have you heard about him?
It's plastered all over the TV screens, and I remember some stuff from him last time.
Yeah, this has been going on for about 5 years now. This is the third time that he's gotten in trouble with his spouse for it's a term called sexting. And for those that may not be familiar with that is, most people have cell phones, and what that involves is taking pictures, intimate pictures of your private parts and sending them, which is texting, to another person. And so that term sexting has become, kind of popular lately, and not just with teens. Obviously, this gentleman, I think he's in his 40s. Wow. So it is affecting all ages, all races, all walks of life.
And you think this guy, being such a public figure, would have sought some help by now or changed his demeanor? I'm kind of clueless, but obviously it's an addiction, and it's a problem that you just can't do alone.
Right.
Well, here's the thing with the addiction that the sex addicts have is if they, in his case where he was busted in public, yes, he may have not wanted help at that time. So you only get in counseling what you put into it. You only get out of it what you put into it. So if he wasn't ready for it, it wasn't going to help him anyways. It also helps on what counselings you go to. If you go to a secular-based counseling, I've been to those in the past with the things I've had in my past.
Yes,
they don't work. They don't address what the real issue is. They don't address the brain issues. They don't address all these things. So the stuff he's been getting in the past, if they weren't addressing the brain issue with the neurochemistry, yes, he wasn't getting what he really needed.
Wow. You mentioned a person being ready. How do you know when you're ready? Is it just like an alcoholic or a drug addict?
When you've had enough. You've had enough, and or your family's had enough.
So
sometimes
intervention time.
Exactly. Yeah, it's not always just the person seeking help, but that intervention of someone else saying you need help.
Okay. Right. Even with my wife, we had issues. I mean, I was in the middle of ministry, and still having issues with pornography, and it took my wife finding out and putting an ultimatum in front of me to make the difference, to wake me up and say, hey, this is wrong.
Yeah. So a lot of times, they're hiding. We talked last time at the last show.
Right.
You're hiding out, and you really feel, as the person addicted to this stuff, that you don't have a problem at first. But there's something wrong because you're hiding, just kind of like Adam and Eve in the garden. They were hiding from God because they were ashamed. Mm-hmm. So
Well, exactly.
Same
like
correlation?
Just like Brian was saying earlier about how Anthony Weiner was doing this in public, and actually the second time that this happened, he was in the process of reconciling with his wife. And so here he was trying to, or so they say, trying to reconcile. He was at the same time texting other women. And then this happened a third time, which is just recently that we're learning about now. So he was hiding this for many, many years, and it may have been in a different form because sexting hasn't always been around, right? So there was probably other things that he's done in his past that we may not ever know about. But it got to the point where it is completely out of control to where now, like he's famous.
Yes.
And he's still doing it. And his wife is an aide to Hillary Clinton. So she's in the public spotlight immensely right now, and he knows what it could do to his wife and his marriage, but even more so to one of the presidential candidates, and he still is out there doing it. So it's a major problem that has taken over his entire life.
That's amazing.
Like with Brian, what Brian's talking about with it being a chemical imbalance, it's a big deal. Whenever that's set up in your brain, it's hard to change a chemical issue.
We touched on some of that. You deal a lot with brain frequencies or
brain scans.
Brain scans.
Yes.
Brain scans.
Yeah, you should elaborate some more on that because that's very interesting.
So as far as with the brain scans, Kenyatta, you're absolutely right. On our Facebook page of Unashamed by Grace, you'll see there's a picture of 3 brains. And just to give you an example, someone who has a secret secret addiction in pornography, they may think, I am much different from someone who's come back, let's say, from the military and they have PTSD or on drugs or things like that. But when now, all these years, scientists have been doing brain scans on different types of people. So this is one of a million examples that are out there on the internet for people to search. But on our Facebook page is a picture of 3 different brains. The first one you'll see is smooth. It's like smooth like a melon, and that's a normal brain. The second one you'll see is pitted. It's misshapen. Is a brain that has been on drugs, on heroin, actually.
Oh, heroin. Yeah.
And the third one is someone who's been has been doing pornography for an extended period of time, and you'll notice that brain shape is even worse than someone who was addicted to heroin. So sometimes people that are addicted to pornography or other sexual addictions, they don't really realize what it's doing to them physically. They think, it doesn't really affect me. I'm just looking at something, but it actually is affecting your brain, just like Brian was talking about.
Wow.
So with Anthony, Brian mentioned that maybe something had happened to him when he was young. Those brain pathways start getting strengthened as the trauma, whatever trauma may have happened, or if he had come across pornography or something like that. If you continue to watch those things or you continue to do those things, it strengthens those pathways in the brain to where it's almost like, I think we talked about this on your first show, kind of like a road or a trail. Like out in the desert, and people continue to walk over that path over the years, it becomes an actual trail, a marked trail. Well, that's what it does to your brain, too.
More ruts in it.
Mm-hmm, exactly.
Well, I got this right here also. It's talking about the sex addicts. It's sex addicts experience a self-induced neurochemical high when fantasizing about and preparing to act out sexually. This overwhelming neurochemical intensity is self-described by sex addicts as being in the bubble or the trance. The self-sustaining and self-perpetuating emotional experience is often more the addict's focus than the sexual act itself. In other words, sex addicts create and use a neurochemical high to detach and dissociate from depression, anxiety, and other life stressors. They learn to control and abuse their own neurochemistry in the same way that alcoholics and drug addicts learn to abuse alcohol, heroin, and cocaine, like we were talking about earlier there.
Wow. So you, as this being a ministry for you guys, you really have to make these people dig deep into what's going on upstairs in their mind. It's not just confessing to it. It's a matter of
Well, it's discovery. It's self-discovery, first of all.
Yeah.
Instead of just putting a Band-Aid on, like Brian was talking about earlier, we know so many people have gone to, different types of counselors, or maybe a recovery group that doesn't specifically deal with sexual addiction, because sexual addiction is so different from a lot of them.
Yeah.
And maybe put a Band-Aid on it, but then they still go back, whether it's months or years, and they're back to doing it again, and they don't understand why. But with Unashamed by Grace, there's a self-discovery to understand, why am I doing this? There's a reason where it started. Let's go back to that very beginning. We renew our mind with the Word of God, get that area covered, and then we can move forward in recovery.
What it reminds me of is psychology today, where psychologists will actually take you into their place, and instead of dealing with the issue, they just medicate it to cover it over, and they never really fix the issue. They just keep you dormant.
Right.
And it's kind of almost the same way with sometimes when people say, "Well, I'm just going to shut it off." Well, even I've talked to Brian, and I'm right there with him in agreement. Where once that picture is in your brain, with the chemical imbalance in your brain that happens with that, it's there. You can't get rid of it.
Yeah, medication's not going to get rid of that.
Right. So with that, it's with getting down to the root of the problem and fixing it from there. That's the way to do it.
Yeah, we don't ever recommend drugs as the fix.
Right.
Ours is the Word of God.
Exactly.
No, you can renew your mind by the washing of the Word. And that's how our ministry is done. It's by we have a great program from Pure Desire, Ted Roberts. Ted Roberts is a amazing man that has devoted his life to this. He used to have a church of about 7,000 people, and then he got the calling to do this ministry. And we're actually trying to get him to come out to Living Word soon. We've got to get all the particulars in order, but we're trying to get that arranged right now so he can speak to others and get the word out more in a church service. So.
Now, you two are really, I'm sorry.
That's okay.
You're really surrounded by some great mentors that are teaching you and giving you tools to help people that are facing this issue. How would you say, if someone going through this, or a wife comes to you, what is the actual approach to initiating the help or the intervention for a family that they may be afraid to come out?
Well, that does happen a lot. We've had a lot of people call us, for their family members, whether it be their teens or their husband, whatever the case may be. And one of the things that a lot of people will tell us is, well, we want to keep this secret. Well, that's part of the problem, because if you don't talk to someone about it, it's that secret sin that's just going to stay with you. So I always am encouraging them that you've made one great step in the right direction, and that's by coming to talk to someone about it, because you'll never fix it if you don't ever talk about it. So I make sure that they know how important it is that they've made that first step just to even reach out. And then we do, a little phone interview, or, we had someone that just came to us during our class last weekend. We didn't know. They just showed up at class. They had heard about us at church. And just showed up.
The funny thing on that one was, it was somebody had seen me speak at church a year ago.
At the Manufacturer Men's meeting.
All of a sudden, he was sitting in our class, and I was like talking to him. We started talking about kayaks. I had no clue why he was even in there, because he didn't say he was, I'm here for the class, I'm here for the group. He was just sitting there. I was about ready to say, I'm sorry, sir, you're going to have to leave. But then we found out he was there for the class, so then we brought him out. And we spoke to him and got more information from him, and
because we want to make sure it's a right fit for it's a right fit for them, and that they're the right people that we can help. And because a lot of times we've had people call or come to us, and they're like, I don't know if we're supposed to be in this class. And then after you get to talking to them, it's like some of them are just frightened to even be talking about it. So they minimize maybe what's been going on in their life. And then after we can talk to them, pull some information out of them, then they realize, okay, I finally found the right place, and I finally found a place that'll help me.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then we also have a SAST. It's a sexual awareness screening test. It's a 45-question yes or no answers. And I've had guys, and they were talking about that group last time. So